Natural disasters, tornadoes, floods, economic panic. When adversity strikes, do you have what it takes to make it through? Can you survive under tough circumstances? The author of a new book says he has the secrets and science that could save your life. Mark Martin has that story.
It's no secret we live in difficult times, from natural disasters to economic woes. Statistics show every hour of the day, 136 people find themselves jobless in the recession, and 80 families lose their homes. It's also reported that every hour, 330 people are hurt in car crashes, 171 people become the victims of violent crime, and 160 people are told they have cancer. When you're faced with mountains, are you a survivor? Why do some tough it out and others crumble? In his new book, The Survivors Club, The Secrets and Science That Could Save Your Life, best-selling author and award-winning journalist Ben Sherwood explores what it takes to survive life's greatest challenges. Sherwood features true stories, scientific research, and his experiences in military survival schools and the FAA's Airplane Crash Evacuation Course. How are people trained to survive? Are some people born with the so-called resilience gene? Why can regular religious observance add years to your life? Sherwood investigates those topics, asking what it takes to thrive and become a member of the Survivors Club.
Well, that's the name of this book, a bestseller, The Survivors Club, Ben Sherwood, and he's with us now from Los Angeles. Ben, did you have some kind of a personal tragedy that got you into writing this thing?
I'm like everybody, Pat. I've got family members dealing with serious challenges. I've got friends and family who are going through tough times. And I wanted to know, what are the secrets of the world's most effective survivors and thrivers, and how can I get some of what they've got?
How much research did you do? How extensive was it?
Very extensive. I spent a few years exploring all the avenues of survival, including, as your report indicated, I went to military survival school. I was dunked by the Navy. I ran around in the woods of Washington with the Air Force. I ran from a so-called burning jet at the Airplane Crash Evacuation Course in Oklahoma, all to learn what it takes to get that mindset to get through the toughest times.
I'm an author, but I must confess I haven't had that kind of pre-writing training. That was great stuff. Let me ask you about this survival gene. Are some of us born with a survival gene, or is it something that's trained?
Well, I thought initially that survival was just about who we are, our parents, our schooling, our upbringing, our life experience. And of course, a big part of it is that. But another big part of it turns out to be in our genes. We're born with what they call the resilience gene. Some of us have a very active version of it. Some of us have an inactive version of it. Some of us have a middle version. I was even genetically tested in England to see if I've got that version. It turns out I have the middle range. So I have some genetic protection against stress and strain in life, but I don't have a lot. Around 30% of us have a lot of it, born with it.
How does that work? I've never really heard of that before. What does it make you do if you've got this survival gene? What does it do for you?
Well, it turns out that around 30% of us have this 5-HTT transporter gene. It's a gene that basically processes a chemical in our body and pumps it into us when we're under stress and strain. And so when they've studied over 30 years how people handle the toughest stuff in life, people with the active version of this gene seem to be protected, inoculated against the worst stuff. Now, by the way, if you don't have that version of the gene, it doesn't mean you're exposed. There are lots of people who don't have it who build their resilience like a muscle, and there are lots of different ways to build up your resilience to make yourself stronger when adversity strikes.
You have thousands of examples. Give us a for instance of somebody who survived, somebody who didn't, and what the difference was.
Well, Pat, one of the most amazing examples that I encountered, it was here in California, down south of Los Angeles. A young woman named Ann Hiela was on a mountain bike riding on a beautiful day in Mission Viejo, California, when she was jumped by a mountain lion. And she cried out to God in that instant to save her, to deliver her from a mountain lion's jaws. Deliver me from the jaws of this lion. And her friend who was riding with her got into a vicious tug of war with this lion. The lion had its teeth around Anne's head, and her friend had one foot, and they pulled and pulled and pulled, and when Anne woke up, she was alive, and this chain of survival began to save her life. Her friend fighting the lion, helicopter rescue arriving within a few minutes, doctors at the Mission Viejo Hospital saving her life, her pastors coming to her bedside and praying on her behalf, her community rallying around her. But she attributes prayer and faith in God to her survival. And as I discovered, faith is the most universal and powerful survival tool in the world. And I encountered it again and again. And probably around 70 to 80% of the people I interviewed, religious belief, faith, made an enormous difference.
So obviously, what does that mean, going to church or just believing in God and praying and trusting His goodness?
Well, Pat, a number of different versions of it. People called out to God in all kinds of crises and believe, for instance, a survivor of the September 11th attacks cried out when he saw the United jet flying right at his window on the 81st floor of the World Trade Center, dove underneath his desk, and the plane flew right into his floor. The wing was 100 feet away from his desk. Everything was destroyed. And when he stood up in the wreckage, all he could see in this devastation around him was his Bible on his desk, undisturbed. So faith in God, faith that God has a plan, those are incredibly powerful survival tools. There's also this fascinating science from the University of Texas that people who go to church, who belong to a religious community, who go to church once a week, survive 6.5 years longer than people who don't go to church. And people who go to church twice a week live around 7.5 years longer than people who don't. So there's a significant survival advantage from belonging to a religious community.
Man, this is incredible. I hope everybody will read your book. It's called The Survivors Club, ladies and gentlemen. It's getting rave reviews from people like Tom Brokaw and others. And it's available wherever books are sold. And I want to thank Ben for his monumental research into this subject.
Incredible. Incredible.
Marvelous. Ben, thank you so much.